Joni Wexler here, Community Manager of Enterprise Mobile Hub, and I'm joined today by Craig Mathias, who is the principal of Farpoint Group, wireless consultancy. And he and I are going to talk about the relationship between cloud trends and mobility. Hi, Craig, welcome.
Hi, it's nice to be here. Great to see you.
Hey, so there's two big trends afoot at least. One is cloud computing and one is mobility. What about cloud computing should people who are focused on enterprise mobility management know about or care about? What's the relationship?
That's an excellent question, and there's an awful lot of really good answers to it. And a lot depends on your own personal philosophy about where you see IT going over the next few years. I happen to be a cloud person, and maybe it stems from the fact that I've been working in IT for a long time. We used to call that time sharing. Years ago, computers were very expensive, and we had cheapo devices out at the edge of the network, and we would access them. And that's pretty much what's going on today, except now the devices aren't quite so cheap. And the way that we're interacting with the cloud, the time sharing that we're doing, is really very different. We're very dependent upon sharing information and collaboration. It's not just a question of storing files in the cloud or anything like that. Now, that kind of goes counter to where we've been going with computing for a long time, because you may recall a computer from the very early days was a big box with processors and storage, and it ran software. And then we invented the microprocessor, and what did we have? A little box with storage and something running software. And then we invented the network, and now we've got lots of boxes all connected to one another, all sharing information, but still fundamentally running code locally. When we think about the cloud, we're now thinking about running applications in the cloud, and actually that's essential for the very simple reason that no matter how good handsets get, we're not going to be able to store all the data that we need on the device all the time. You've got people accessing a database, sharing information, collaborating, all the things that we really need to do in our day-to-day activities, and we simply can't do that if we are going to expect all the data to be on everybody's handset in perfect synchronization all the time. Now, moreover, there's not enough wireless capacity in the universe to handle that kind of a vision as well. So my argument is that the future of mobility, the future of enterprise computing and IT is fundamentally in mobility because people need to be out and about where the action is, but they need to make sure that all of that data and the applications that manipulate that data are sitting in the cloud somewhere so they're available, reliable, device independent. Whatever you need to do, you can do. And you can do it anytime, anywhere.
Any ideas about how cloud computing might or might not help out on the mobile unified communications front? One thing that I tend to hear a bit about is that UC has worked great. When it goes mobile, it's a little less effective because of interoperability issues. Could the cloud play a role there, do you think, Craig?
Yeah, there's really no reason why it shouldn't. When you look at unified communications, it's another application. It's a little ugly in the sense you've got audio and video, and potentially you want to integrate messaging and email. When we say messaging, of course, it means SMS and IM and all kinds of other modalities that might come into play here. Can it be done? Sure. There's no reason why not. I mean, after all, unified communication systems, they are based on the concept of servers. Servers can live in the cloud. We can certainly come up with good protocols that would allow clients on these relatively thin devices that I've been describing to you here, certainly today's handsets, to interact very effectively in that environment. The thing you generally worry about, though, and I hate to say this being a wireless guy, is the quality of the wireless connection. Can I get access when I need to? How much is it going to cost? How many interruptions am I going to have to deal with? Am I going to get a dropped call or some kind of a latency problem? The good news is we're getting better all the time. I mean, let me ask you, when's the last time you got a dropped call on a handset? Doesn't happen.
Good point. Can't remember.
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often anymore. And generally, with LTE now, we're seeing data rates that are reliably in the order of a megabit per second or above, where we have LTE service, of course. So my guess is that unified communications will be handled like any other application and will work quite well. And of course, when you talk about collaborative environments, UC has a big future at the core of that.
Any final tips for folks who might be on, say, the mobility group or mobility task force in their enterprises? Should they be talking to the cloud people within their enterprises? What should they do in order to make sure that they meld their efforts with the efforts of the rest of the IT department to make sure everything goes hand in hand?
That's a really good question. I don't think I've never actually felt that it makes sense to have a mobility department. I've never understood mobility groups within IT organizations. I think you want to start in any organization at the absolute core, which is information. What information do I have? Who needs to have it and when? How am I going to deliver it? Under what circumstances? How is it secured? How is it managed? How are the costs dealt with? You can't really do that in isolation. You can't think of it only in terms of mobility. You need to think of it in terms of overall organizational objectives and overall organizational capabilities. Everything is essentially cross-functional.
Which is why I think the mobility groups task forces that I'm talking about would include members from IT, security, human resources, legal, PC support, etc., so that everybody's represented as they make mobility decisions.
It could very well, but even just within IT, you don't want one subgroup within IT making decisions like this. Information is strategic. When you think about the value of an enterprise today, where does it generally sit? Certainly in the people who work there, but it's mostly in the information that those people generate, create, manipulate, store, deal with on a day-to-day basis. So we need to be incredibly effective in how that information is stored and secured and manipulated and moved about, who has access to it and under what circumstances. It's not really just a mobility problem. I will argue that if you can solve the mobility challenges that face your organization, you're probably dealing with 90% of what IT needs to worry about today. But you can't really think of mobility in isolation. There's a lot there. Think about outsourcing and how that plays into this overall cloud vision we've been talking about. There are many, many pieces, a lot of moving parts. Always a good time.
I agree. Hey, thanks for chatting with me today, Craig. For those of you who aren't familiar with Craig, he will be blogging for us on a regular basis in the coming weeks, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.